everybody. Kevin and Anissa here again with you for episode 2 of My Life, My Rules podcast, where we are going to talk about all of the things that have to do with, daring to dream again, if you will, and orchestrating and putting together and creating your perfect life, whatever that is for you. And today, what we want to delve into with you is what we kind of feel like is the big foundational platform that you have to, kind of springboard off of and start out with, and that is to talk about, what's here, like what's between our ears, right? And that really boils down to, I don't know, I guess, what would we call it, Kevin? The mindset, or
Right. It's
yeah,
yeah, it's how you think about things. It's your mindset.
right, right.
I think
And,
really early in the game, what we learned was that association had a heavy influence on mindset, and so you may be hanging out with people that are in similar circumstances to you because it's comfortable, right? So we like to hang around with people that are a lot like us, similar, in terms of maybe you're married, so you hang out with married couples. Maybe you're single, so you hang out with single people. Maybe you hang out with people who have kids or don't have kids because you do or don't. Um, Maybe you hang out with people based on economic circumstances, so you have similar economies or financial situations because there's something that somebody brought up, and I don't recall who came up with this originally, but it was something to the effect of you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most with. And so if you don't think that's true, then when you get done with this episode, go figure out who those people are and figure out what the similarities are that you have with them and see if you don't seem to be right about in the middle of all that. And that's what people tend to gravitate toward, is other people that are like them. And
so,
so,
oh, sorry, honey. So what we're wanting to really delve into today is exactly that, and the fact that you've been this way, and so you've been hanging out with these people and surrounding yourself with this environment. But I'm guessing if you're on episode 2 here and watching along, that you're not in your perfect life. So you're wanting to make some changes. So when you make those changes, that means the people that you're hanging out with in your environment needs to change as well, because you can't stay in that same environment and make those changes and them work, right?
right. And so there's a lot of mind, I'm trying to think of a good word to use. I'm not going to use the word that pops in my head right now, but the thinking is that you want to hang out with people who are in the successful positions that you want to be in, if that makes sense. So in other words, if I want to be a successful person in, say, my career, whatever that is, or in my business, or even in college, you want to get good grades, so you go out and hang out with the people who are already doing that or in that position, because then they've already figured it out, and then you can get around it. So, for instance, if you want to learn to climb to the top of Mount Everest, you're not going to want to go hang out with people who haven't been to the top of Mount Everest, or people that have been halfway up but didn't make it, because that's not who you need to be with. You want to be successful with whatever it is you're doing. You want to go hang out with people that have had success in that arena that you're looking at. And that might be financially, that might be in your health, that might be in your personal relationships, whatever the case may be. Go find the people who are successful in that scenario or that arena and go spend time around them, because that's going to help you find your pathway. And also, I remember when I was younger and I used to do a lot of weightlifting, I'd go hang out with guys that were stronger than me, because then I was trying to be as strong as them, and they were very encouraging, and they would help push me to, get that last couple of reps in on my lift or whatever the case may be. And so that was a positive environment for somebody who was trying to get that, achieve that level of strength training, for instance. And so we kind of have this in any thought or any process of your life. Are you where you want to be in that position in that situation? And if you're not, are you hanging out with people that have gotten success in that area so that you can have a positive role model and uplifting people to help get you where you want to go, whatever your goals are?
Well, Kevin, I think it's really important to talk about the fact that you aren't always going to have that. In fact, you're going to you are potentially, and I would say probably more likely than not, actually have people in your life that are not only not going to support you, but they're going to try to tear you down. And we call that or make you like stay where you're at because that's where they're at. So, we like that whole, analogy of crabs in a bucket. If you've ever been crabbing before, we used to do it a lot when we lived on the beach in Washington, and we'd put the crabs in a bucket and then catch more crabs and put them in it. And what would when one crab tried to crawl out of the bucket, because it would get a hold of the top with its claw and like start climbing out, the other crabs would literally grab a hold of that crab and pull it back down. And so that's where that whole analogy comes from, where people will act like that. And when you're trying to either get out of that financial circumstance that you're in, maybe you're trying to get healthy and lose weight, or you're trying to open a business instead of being a W-2 wage earner to have, financial freedom, people will start to want to pull you back. Those people that you're hanging out with right now that are, they're overweight because they eat terrible and eat out all a lot or drink a lot. And then you got people who are financially, not fiscally responsible, right? And so if you start surpassing them and wanting to change those habits and be different, they'll literally act like those crabs in the bucket, not necessarily meaning to do you any harm, by the way. They may not even really get present to the fact that they're doing this. But this is what Kevin was talking about when he said, you're like the 5 people that you hang out with. So if you're hanging out with your top 5 people are all 50 pounds or more overweight, do you think you're going to get healthy? Probably not. And if you do,
because it's like if you want to quit smoking, you're not going to sit in a room full of people smoking cigarettes, or if you want to quit drinking, you're not going to hang out with your buddies at the bar because that's not going to be a good thing for you.
Right. And if you do try to stop that behavior or change that behavior, they're not going to encourage you in that. Not only their actions not encouraging you, some can be downright discouraging. And listen, here's the thing about this conversation today. This conversation is a little bit tough about your mindset, because sometimes you're going to find those crabs in the bucket might be the people that you live with. This could be your husband. This could be your wife. This could be your children. It could be your mother. It could be your father. When you've got, and these people can be downright negative, toxic. Okay. Like it can be that kind of a situation that you could be dealing with. And you have to decide to either want to make the changes that you want to make and be able to, say, hey, I don't want you, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to change this behavior. And sometimes that means you have to change those that you're around. And if that is your actual family that you live with, this is a tough situation. It can mean that, you break relationships with family members. It can mean that you limit relationships with family members. It's just you have a conversation, by the way, with that family member. And maybe they, again, not even really realizing that they're being the crab in the bucket to you, may change their behavior. But you got to get real present that these tools and things that Kevin and I are sharing with you and giving you that will literally change your life to whatever that looks like for you in your perfect life, still means you got to do the work. And this is what I meant on the first episode when I said it's simple but not easy. This isn't rocket surgery. This isn't rocket science, but it's not easy always to do this stuff. It might mean you realize I got to quit drinking alcohol. Maybe you're not an alcoholic by the, definition, but maybe you're like, I have, 80 pounds to lose and I need to stop drinking alcohol and get my act together for my health. And these can be tough things. Simple to say, oh, stop drinking alcohol, stop eating crappy food, and you're going to be lean and mean machine. But not easy, is it? Simple, not easy. So what we're trying to say is you have to have your why and your driving motivation for wanting to make the change you want to make and have whatever perfect life that you want to have. It's got to be big enough. It's got to be big enough that you might have to change family relationships, that you may need to limit family relationships, that you might need to get a whole new circle of friends. I mean, Jesus, look, Kevin, you and I, like we literally lost every friend we had when we made these changes, when we stopped being financially broke and stopped complaining about everything and accepting responsibility for what was going on in our life and having all these successes. We literally not only lost all the friends in our life, like literally, like it created enemies. Like we had people trying to sabotage us, like actively sabotaging our life, trying to because of it. They made it mean all this shit about them and jealousy and blah blah blah. So the first thing you really got to get present to is that this is going to be a little tough, and that you're going to have people, the crabs in the bucket around you. And you got to get really dialed into your why. I mean, why do in our successful when exercise, which we haven't even done with you guys yet, wait till we get to the exercise, is amazing. One of the things I have is that I never lose my tan line. And people might think, oh, that's like super. No, it's not superficial. It's very deep in my why. My overall why is I want to live a happy, prosperous life that touches other people. Well, part of that never losing my tan line is part of my big why, because I can't be be that for other people if I'm not a healthy, happy person. And I'm healthy, happy, I believe, physically and spiritually and mentally, when I spend a huge chunk of my life on the beach in the sunshine, getting lots of vitamin D. Okay. So you have to be very clear as to what drives you, right? Like, Kevin, what's your why? Like talk about what your why is.
You talking about me?
Yeah, you.
Why?
Yeah, honey.
I have lots of whys in different categories of my life. And what I've found is I tend to, do a lot of research into the subjects that I'm interested in so I can gain knowledge and make informed decisions. But I also seek out people who are already successful in those arenas. And instead of, and that might be people I already know, that might be people I need to go get to know. But I want to go, success leaves clues. And so maybe I'm reading a book about the subject that I'm interested in improving in. But you got to do your due diligence in anything. And again, it's critical to really examine who you're associating with. So, and I would say this, guilty by association is a very altruism in this scenario, because if you're trying to better yourself in any particular arena, then you may need to change your association in order to improve that and be facilitating, success. Because a lot of times, again, I'm not trying to use, like a addiction as a example, but let's just say financially, for instance, you want to learn to make better wages or maybe get a promotion or do whatever you need to do to move up in your finances, then you may need to spend some time around people that have already done that, maybe in your career field, and find out what it is that they did, or even seek, to understand better what your superiors are wanting from you, and then work on those, improve those areas so that you can move up. One of the things that, I years and years ago, I worked in the restauranting industry and I was managing in restaurants. And so anytime we um, wanted to promote somebody in a restaurant, and these were corporate chain restaurants I worked in, when we promoted them, we moved them to a different location because they needed to be in a fresh group of people that were used to being co-workers with these people because now you're their supervisor, and that was make it very difficult for them who maybe you were, friends with and palled around with and had a different relationship with. Now all of a sudden you're their boss, and that doesn't always work well. So we would move people into a different group of people so that they didn't have that stigma going in, and they just came in with that authority and had a better success rate when we did that. And so that's just changing your environment again to give you that opportunity. So if for you, whatever that arena is that you're trying to improve in, you may need to seek out different people again that are successful in that arena, or have advice or counsel for you to get you to that success rather than the people you're currently around. And these people are not doing this to sabotage you as much as they are to try to make themselves feel better by knowing that you're not doing better than they are, and they're making that mean something about where they're at in life. And that can be a very uh, insidious thing that happens when you're in these relationships. And so that could be, again, it could be close family members, could be close friends, could be coworkers, it just depends on who you spend time
It
around.
could be your spouse, Kevin. I mean,
Yeah,
this could
sure.
be your
Direct
child.
relationship with
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah.
And so if they're not willing to follow along, and here's a great example. You decide, hey, I want to lose some weight and get healthier and be more active, and your significant other, whoever that might be,
Mhm.
isn't on board. And so they're not, interested in doing that. And so they're going to make it hard because maybe they're not, on board with eating better and exercising and getting more active and breaking some habits that are keeping you from, making your goal. Then that's going to make it a heck of a lot harder for you when you're over there, trying to eat your vegetables and they're over there eating a piece of cake right in front of you.
Right,
So,
but we can't also let that be an excuse. Like that's why I'm
well,
saying like your
yeah, you can
why
understand.
has to be, yeah, your why has to be big enough because
So,
regardless of what someone else is doing, if you're
mhm,
not doing the things you want to be doing to attract what you want in your life, that's not on them. That's still on you.
it's true,
Right,
but
right.
certainly the influence isn't helping. And so, but what we want to do is, again, if you have enough determination, if your why is big enough, if your why is powerful enough, you can get up and get this accomplished and make those. And you never know that having met that goal on your own may influence the people around you to follow in your footsteps because they saw that you've improved your situation and they would like to,
Right,
and maybe they're now inspired to do the same.
right, right, for sure. But the bottom line is we just want to make sure you understand that this may not always be a rosy, easy path.
Right.
But that's why you got to be real clear as to why you're doing it. I mean, why,
If,
why,
if somebody friend, relative, acquaintance, whoever it is, sees you in a new capacity and they make a comment, something to the effect of, well, that must be nice. That's
Mhm,
that crabs in a bucket attitude. They don't like it that you've just improved your situation. They're making that mean something
mhm,
about them. And I've had that happen to me. I was successful years ago in things, and people, we wound up having some um, new things in our life. One of them that something I had wanted for a long time was a motorcycle. And when I first bought the motorcycle, I was afraid to drive it around the area and have anybody that I knew see me on it, because I was afraid of the reaction I was going to get from them, because this was not an economically strong area, and these people didn't have that kind of stuff. And so, sure enough, I rode down to my office on a Saturday thinking, oh, I won't run into anybody. And I was checking the mail, and sure enough, one of the people came around the corner in their vehicle and pulled up next to me, and the first thing out of their mouth was, "New motorcycle, huh? Must be nice." And I thought to myself, yeah, it is. And if you want one, you should go get one too. But see, I lived in this fear of those, situations occurring. And now I don't care because I don't let that bother me. And if that's bothering them, that's on them. And so you've got to have that kind of a fortitude when you're improving yourself, that you're not going to let what other people have to say about you bother you. In
Right.
fact,
Well,
here's an adage to that. You can write this down. What other people have to say about you is none of your business.
mhm. Yeah,
And
well,
and even stronger in that regard is you don't need their acceptance or approval. When you get to the point where you don't need other people's acceptance or approval, now you're making some serious headway, some serious progress in getting where you want to go, irregardless of what other people think one way or the other. It doesn't matter. Let that sink in.
so in order to get where you want to go, though, you have to know where it is you want to go. That's what we talked about on the last episode, where, we said we talked about my perfect life exercise. Some of you even still on are listening and like, I don't know what the hell I want. I have no idea. I'm just not happy. And so I'm listening to you guys trying to get some direction. I don't know, maybe. But you have to at least attempt to do the My Perfect Life exercise now, so that you can get some kind of idea of where is it you'd like to go. And it may not be like mine was at the time, a very huge thing. Although now I think, I mean, I looked at it just even 4 or 5 years afterward, and I thought that was so lame. Like I didn't go no limitations, no restrictions. I did at the time where my mindset was, but now it's a whole different, you know, 3 years that I have in My Perfect Life is very, very different. But you have to start where you're at, and you need to do that. And then you got to understand that you have to not just write this on paper and be vague, like be as detailed as you can about it. You have to know, why is it you want these things? I wanted that $1 million business because I wanted financial freedom, because we struggled. I couldn't even buy my children that were all in sports in high school. I couldn't afford to buy them Letterman jackets. They were $220 a piece. Couldn't afford to do it. They all lettered. They all still have their letters as keepsakes, and they're in their 30s now, but none of them have jackets because I couldn't afford to buy it for them. I wanted financial freedom, and I wanted time freedom. Never got to see my husband. We slept in the same bed, if we were lucky, one night a week for years because we worked opposite each other. You'd go to bed as I was getting up to get the kids to school and go to work. And so my why was huge. My why was massive in my mind, even back then. It still is. So you got to get really dialed into that. This isn't, you can be superficial, but then guess what? You're not going to work that hard at it, and you're not going to be motivated when times get tough. And they will, because I mean, if you think for 1 second that Kevin and I have not faced, since we started this journey, difficulties or setbacks or any, I mean, just you're wrong. You're very wrong. And so if our why wasn't big enough, we would have quit a long time ago. Now at our age, one of the biggest whys that we have with our I Know I'm Successful When and our Perfect Life Design is our health and our time is of the utmost importance to us. We're now at the point in our life where we got more behind us than we have in front of us, right? Not that we're old people, by the way, like we still have lots of years ahead of us, but we're
over the hump.
We're over the hump, exactly. And we are very clear and present to, we want to make every moment count. And we know in order to do that, that our health is important, both physical, spiritual, and mental. Okay. So our why is very, very massive. And that's what keeps us going when things do get tough, and they will. If you think that you're just going to listen to a podcast and learn some exercises, and then life's just going to be a freaking breeze, and there's never going to be anything you got to work through, I'm here to tell you, you're going to be really freaking disappointed, because I don't know anything. I mean, if you find it, please contact us, let us know, because I sure as hell want to go do that podcast, because, I mean, who wouldn't, right? But that's not how it works. That isn't. And so what we're trying to do is help you with the foundational things, and we're walking you all through the exact steps we took in the order, right? So first, we're asked, what's our perfect life look like? We got that down. Then what we had to get a grip on was our mental, our mindset. We had to have a shift. We had to talk about the fact that we've got to have this massive why, and that there are going to be people around us that are going to try to pull us back in. And if we don't have a big enough why, they'll succeed. And then we had to get really clear, and that, spoiler alert, guys, spoiler alert, that one of the biggest challenges we're going to have in this whole thing is to overcome what's between our ears and to basically battle ourselves. If that doesn't sound like too weird, right? Like, we literally realized that the only reason why we didn't have everything we wanted was because we didn't believe it. We didn't believe it. We didn't think we could have it. And we literally sabotaged ourselves. So the minute you can step back and start accepting that kind of responsibility, that maybe you're where you're at because you put you here, not because of the president in the White House, or not because of who you married, or not because of what your parents did to you when you were a child, but because you put yourself where you are, you all of a sudden take complete control of your life, which is really freaking cool, you guys, because then that means you have control. And what's the only person in the world we can control? Ourselves. So now you just gave yourself the power to literally change your life. Like, think about that for a second. Think about how powerful that is. I mean, I don't know, Kevin, if you remember, but I remember the moment that I realized that. And at first, it scared the shit out of me, because then I thought, oh, great. So I am wrong. Like, it's like, it made me feel like I was wrong as a person for all the shit I did in my life. But then I went, wait a minute. Like, I can change it, because if I'm in control, I just got to say, this is how I want it to be. And then the actions follow. And so it was a big revelation moment for me. So we want you all, you've got to understand, you are not a victim. You are not in the spot you're in your life, whatever that is, whether it's your health, finances, love, relationship, whatever. You're only there because of the decisions you made and the choices you made. And that means you can change them if you don't like them.
And P.S. on the choices, choosing not to choose is still a
A
choice. So
choice. Yep.
you're making a choice by not making a choice at the same time. So
Yep.
again, this is about
Yep.
radical responsibility. And again, this is where all the power comes from, because if you sit around pointing the finger at other things and other people that are causing
Yep.
you to not get where you want to go, then you're putting them in charge of your fate,
Yep.
of your success or lack thereof. But as soon as you take charge of that, then you become responsible, but you also have all the power to make the decisions and the choices and improve your situation in whatever
Yeah.
that is, in
Yeah.
whatever arena that is. So I'm going to give you a little example here, so just so you can kind of get the idea. If you're sitting around not happy with a certain situation in your life, and you want to improve upon it, it's not about saying, okay, I want that to be better, because that's too vague. You have to be very specific and set goals, and you have to set timelines in order to make improvements. So here's an example. You could say something like, I want to save money this year. Okay, great. Put $1 in a piggy bank and you're done. Now, did that get you where you wanted to go? Probably not. But if you decide that I'm going to set a specific amount of money that I want to save in a specific amount of time to do it, then you have something you can focus on and something that you can have incremental success with. And here's what happens. So I'm just going to use this number as an example. If I want to save $10,000 in the next 12 months, then I've set a goal and I've set a timeline. Now, what does that look like? That's about $27.50 a day. So we're breaking that down into manageable chunks now. And what will happen is you start setting aside that $27.50 a day. Pretty soon you're going to see some results. You're going to see some money starting to stack up, and that's going to motivate you. That's going to get you excited. And then probably what will happen is you're going to be focusing very much on saving money, not spending money, which means you're going to curtail some of the maybe mindless spending you've done without realizing, getting a coffee and a donut every day and you know, a beer at night on the way home, or, whatever have you, or I'm eating out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I'm spending too much money in some of these areas without really thinking about it. Now, if I just start saying, well, I'm just going to bring my lunch 3 days a week, and I'm going to skip coffee 4 days a week, and I'm going to just treat myself to dinner once a week. Now you're getting some traction. Now you're putting that money aside. Now, let's say you've saved a few $1,000s up and you're 2 or 3 months in. Next thing you know, you're like, well, if I cut this much out of my spending from here and I stop spending money over there, I can save more money faster. And at the end of the day, you may hit the goal of saving $10,000 in less than 12 months. And maybe you'll overshoot it. And by the end of 12 months, maybe you'll have 12 or $13,000. And so that's how that works. And so the same thing can be applied to any arena in your life, and decide that, hey, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds in the next 90 days. What do I have to do that? Well, I'm going to start walking more. I'm going to walk every day. I'm going to get so many steps a day in. I'm going to, not drink, those sugary $8 coffee drinks at work or on the way to work or whatever. And maybe I'm going to eat healthier at home. And so, and then you lose a few pounds and you start feeling better and you start looking better. And then you're focusing more and more on this. And then next thing you know, you've probably met your goal in less time than you set for yourself. And so you can apply that. Again, that's the formula.
I want to point out that, like, seriously, every time I'm really trying to think of a time that this is not true, and I can't right now. Every single time we have set our goals that we would often do in 90-day, 12-month, and 3-year and 5-year increments. Like, I've done my perfect life 3 times. And first time, and that gives you 3 years to accomplish. First time was 17 months. I've never not accomplished it. And every time I've accomplished it in less than the time I gave myself. So, and you know what? There's I really don't think there's ever a time I haven't accomplished. And usually it's earlier. But let's say you did. Let's say you did just exactly what you were talking about, Kevin, and you're like, okay, I want to save $10,000 in 12 months. What if you fall short? What if you fall short and you save $8,400 in 12 months? I'm going to guess the prior 12 months to that, you didn't save $8,400. So is that still a success? I would say, hell yes, it's still a success. Maybe it wasn't the end result you said, but even if you fall, like what's that saying? Aim for the moon, and if you fall short, you land on the stars. Still pretty freaking cool, right? So that's the point. Like, it's because that's what we're talking about when we say live life on purpose. Then you're intentionally setting intention, you're putting it out in the universe, and your thoughts and mind are focusing on it, which means your actions are going to be following that, instead of just like doing the zombie thing where you're just existing and you're just surviving. In fact, some people aren't even surviving. They're just literally existing. I mean, it's like the Matrix, right? You just get up, don't get enough sleep, take a shower, get the kids to school, go to work, mindlessly come home, cook dinner, do laundry, walk the dog, mow the lawn, put the kids back to bed, get up the next day, rinse and repeat. Like, literally, there are people that do this for 50 freaking years. Like, their life's over and they're like, holy shit. So
where'd that go?
Yeah, and that's the zombie land, right? Like, that's the zombie apocalypse that you're just like, oh my God. So don't do that. Don't be like that. And it's not the make your life count, and make it count for what you want it to count for, not what the media tells you or your neighbors think or your mother thinks or any of that. It's what you want. So you got to get dialed into that. Okay. Got to do my perfect life exercise. Got to know that. Got to get your why down. Why is that perfect life important to you? Why does that mean so much? Why do you want it? Like, just start that simple. We're not talking about you got to have like some massive why like Mother Teresa. Okay. We're not talking about saving the world, right? Which
You got to
just
be, you got to plan things out and have specific goals. I'm going to tattle
right.
on my, can I tattle on myself?
Sure. I don't
Last
know. Does it
year,
involve me?
no,
Okay,
last
fine.
year I went into the doctor and I got a bad report card. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. I guess I better straighten up my act and, eat better and exercise and all that. Well, I didn't really put a plan in motion. I just said, okay, I set an intention. Oh yeah, I need to eat better. I need to exercise. I need to, straighten up my act. Okay. But I got pretty blasé about it, or at least I didn't realize I did, but it turned out that I went back in for the next check-in and it was worse, not better. And I was like, oh, well, that was a wake up call because I clearly didn't set a plan. I didn't set a specific set of goals and deadlines, and I just kind of thought, well, just very casually, I'll just, I'm just going to do better. I didn't say in how, and so that kind of scared me. And so then I thought, okay, well, no more playing around. No, this is serious. And so I set a very specific set of goals and timelines, and I got very hardcore about it. And then the same increment, I went back in to check on to see if I had improved, and I had improved demonstrably. I
And
lost weight.
that was only 90 days.
Right. It was a 90-day period. I straightened up my diet and got my act together, and I got very focused on a daily basis on how I was going to be. And I stayed on it for 90 days, and I went back in and I got an A. So I improved my health in a very significant way in a very short period of time because I focused very intently and I had a plan and I stuck to the plan religiously and I got the result that I needed to get. And so that's really what this boils down to. And so you can do the same thing. I don't know, maybe financially you want to be in a better position. You want to, make more money, or you want to save more money, or you want to, figure out how to get yourself out of debt. And so you're going to have to focus on that. You're going to have to be very intent on setting a deadline and setting goals and sticking to that plan on a daily basis and measure incrementally measure the results so you're staying on track. And if you get off track, then get up and get back on the track. If you fall off the horse, it doesn't mean, oh well, I failed. It
Right.
means temporarily setback, but then you get up and you go. And so if you really want to make those improvements, you've got to stick to it. And that means you can't let anything influence you uh, to stop you from getting where you want to go. That means people around you, the circumstances, you've got to be able to focus and stay in, and again, measure your results as you go because that will excite you and get you, focused on seeing that progress and getting traction in whatever it is you're trying to achieve, and then you'll get to your result.
Right. And in order to do that, like that was massive. And I know you didn't get into all the details, Kevin, but your report card was pretty bad. Like when you went
I got
back the second time in 90 days, they wanted to put you on medications. That's how bad it
mhm.
was. And literally in another night, and you were like, I'm not doing this. Like this is not me. This is not who I am. You lost a significant amount of weight in that 90 days. You completely shifted your diet and
Yeah,
um
well, I went from an
you
F to an A.
yeah, you literally completely all and this was blood work that we were doing to check this. And you went from they're like, "Oh my God, we need to put you on medication," to holy shit, what have you been doing in the last 90 days? Like that's literally what the doctor said. So, um it's
But it was all
again, well, yeah, it was all up there. It was all mental and your why was big enough. You're like, "Shit, I don't want to have a heart attack. I don't want to
my
have
health.
diabetes. I don't want to be on medication for the rest of my life." Your why was massive. And so you were just like, and you were freaking
I
hardcore.
wanted
I
to
mean,
feel better. I wanted to have more
yep,
energy. I had to
yep,
set some intentions on what it is I
right.
wanted to, like, and then I just focused very intently on it, and I got where I wanted to go.
And I
And
think
so,
it's huge to point out, Kevin, that you also know how you operate. And the reason you know how you operate is because you've done different things. And one of the things we want to talk to you about on this episode, which I will tell you flat out, go do it. It's like $50. Get off the call here and go do it. It's called a Kolbe test, KOLBE.com. And it will describe to you, like, you go take this test, answer a bunch of questions. It will uncannily nail how you operate. Like, if you ever wondered why you operate the way you do, go do your Kolbe. They'll give you back the results. And when you read, what is it that triggers you for these different good and not so good things? It's not like just a bad thing. It's like, how do you operate when you're happy, and doing well? It's uncanny how amazing that this is, and how it explains to you why it is that you're reacting this way is very, 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 very huge. And it'll go a long way into helping you be able to understand yourself. Because that's, really what we're trying to do. We're trying to get that stuff out from between our head or ears that, oftentimes is put there when we're kids,
mhm.
by outside and inside influences, and understanding just exactly who we are, and how we operate, so that we can come up with that blueprint and those goals Kevin's talking about, like being very specific as to what it is we want to accomplish in what time frame. So it's called Kolbe, KOLBE.com, and it's a Kolbe A, and there's a Kolbe B index, which is pretty good. There's also a financial Kolbe, which is super interesting, that you should look at doing as well. And they have one for kids, by the way. If you're listening to this and you have children, teenagers, especially, I think you got to be 13 or 14 to take it, to really, be effective. But they have that. So being able to dial into your why, being able to understand that you're gonna have to change your environment. I mean, it may or may not include people around you, but your environment will have to change if you want to change who you are, how you're being, and what your life looks like right now. You cannot stay in the exact same environment and get a different result. It's
Right.
like,
So there's a couple of adages and some very famous quotes, very powerful quotes we should offer. One of them that Denisa just kind of touched on is the definition of insanity, and that's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You're not going to change your result if you don't change what you're doing.
right.
And the other one is this, and this is a very famous quote from a guy by the name of Henry Ford. He invented the Ford Motor Company. And he very frankly says, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that's back to mindset. And mindset is so powerful that that's exactly, if you don't think you can do something,
You're right.
guaranteed you're going to fail. But
Yep.
if you think you can, then there's a whole higher likelihood that you're going to achieve your goal
Yep.
with the right mental outlook or mental attitude. So
Mhm.
you have to, if you want a different result than you're getting right now, you're going to have to change something about what you're doing in order for that to happen. And
And it
so you're,
isn't, oh,
so
sorry. Yeah, so it isn't just the thinking. I mean, the changing what you're doing in the mind. It's because you have to change the way you're thinking. You have to think differently. A book you guys all got to read. It literally shifted so many things for us. Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. I think it was by Brian Tracy. Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. Seriously, because our thoughts are powerful. Our thoughts are what we act off of. Our thoughts in everything is why we then have actions and reactions and do things. So, like Kevin said, it's all about mental mindset, because our mindset are our thoughts. And we got to change them, because if you don't, you're not going to get any different results. Period. Period. In a conversation. So I know we've kept everybody on here pretty good today. Hope you guys are not, we're not,
You're still here, congratulations.
what was that?
I said, if you're still here, congratulations.
Right, right. But
You
but
got
it
something
really,
out of what you said. It's powerful.
it is. And it's super important. Like that's why we dedicated an entire episode to your mindset and shifting that. And you, like Kevin said, I love, love, love what he said. You have to radically accept responsibility for your life and everything in it. Period. Period. Don't be a victim. Don't blame anybody else. Don't blame the fact that you grew up dirt poor or that your father was abusive or anything else as to why you're where you're at right now. Don't you dare give someone else that kind of control over your life. Like,
Yeah.
don't do it. Okay. So, I mean,
Won't
look,
serve.
again, Kevin and I have every reason to blame so much external on our life being, to be kind of blunt with you, a shit show, like a mess, right? But it's not because that's not what we did. We didn't blame anybody and we gave nobody that kind of power over us. We changed our mindset. We got a new way of thinking. We were very clear on what we wanted. Our why is powerful. We set intention and then we set the goals and then we went out and freaking made it happen. We didn't rely on anybody else to hand us anything or to do anything for us. We expected nothing because we know the world doesn't owe us a thing. We went out and created the freaking phenomenal results that we wanted. And thus today, I mean, literally, today you might notice from the episode the other day, Kevin's in the air conditioning. I'm sitting outside in the 93 degrees. We're sitting at the filming of this in Costa Rica. We live there part of the year. We live between Washington State and Costa Rica because we don't like snow. So we love the beach. So we spend part of our year at the beach here. And then the rest of the year we spend on the beautiful place that we live, literally within minutes of all 10 of our grandkids and our 4 kids. But that's no accident. We don't, there was no, oh, that must be nice. Yeah, it is freaking nice because we literally made it happen for ourselves. Like we orchestrated this. So, and you know what? Maybe that's not your thing. I don't know. It's our thing. And it isn't just now, it's pretty much Costa Rica, but we've done it all over. And Fiji and Tahiti and St. Martin for 7 years and just all kinds of other different areas that we've kind of landed here. But it is nice because it is what we wanted and we made it happen and we didn't give anybody else control over us to take that away from us. So don't you do that. Don't you dare do that.
Best thing you can do right now, and when you get off this call, is
Yeah.
go have a serious conversation with the person in the mirror and have a regular conversation. If you want to have a staff meeting with yourself, then that's the mirror. Go visit with the mirror every day and that's the person you need to convince that things need to change if you're not happy with where you're at.
Yeah. So remember, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, I'll put some links below the video. Remember the book. I believe it's Brian Tracy, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. Go take a Kolbe, KOLBE.com, Kolbe.com. Go take a Kolbe test and really, figure out where you're at and how you operate good and not so good circumstances and stressful circumstances. And do your perfect life exercise if you haven't already done that. And by the way, if you haven't already done it and you are on the YouTube channel, we would love it if you would give us some comments below and tell us what is your perfect life look like. And in 3 years, if you could have whatever you want, no limitations, no restrictions, this is my perfect life. What would that look like for you? We would love it and be honored if you would share that with us. And by the way, that's very powerful to do that and set it you're voicing that and you're setting that out into the universe as an intention. And that has power. That has a lot of power because you're putting yourself out there and saying it to someone else. And now there's accountability. So that's part of this, you guys. That's a big part of all of this stuff that we're talking about. All right. Well, guys, it's been great. I super appreciate y'all hanging with us. I don't know if you know this about Kevin and I yet, spend much time around us, and you will figure it out real soon. There is nothing we value more than time. And there's nothing that we appreciate and value more than you spending your time with us. Because why? Because your time is literally your life. And we realize you could have done anything you wanted for the last 45 minutes or an hour. Anything at all. Spend it doing anything. And what'd you do? Spend it with us. Hopefully we didn't disappoint, but we do appreciate it a lot. So any other final words of wisdom, honey, before we let these people go?
No, I hope you take some of this to heart and it motivates you and it gets you on a path to getting some goals set and planning and focusing on them and getting some results. And if that it maybe that as you get smaller plans and smaller goals lead to bigger plans and bigger goals. So
Right.
when you see what you're capable of, you'll find out you're unstoppable and you can really set yourself out to do whatever you want to do.
Yep. Absolutely.
Why?
Awesome.
Your
Your life, your rules. That's right. That's right. All right, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you on the next episode where we will have another big, big topic that we're going to be covering. So you're not going to want to miss that. So if you are listening to this on the YouTube channel, be sure that you are subscribed to the channel so that you don't miss the next episode as it comes out. And on that note, you have a fantastic day.